Paddy Pimblett is one of the fastest rising stars the UFC has ever seen, and a position like that attracts a lot of attention. The Scouser has critics and fans in equal amounts, and discussions of his future have gained more gravitas after his decision victory last time he was out. Let's take a look at Paddy's career trajectory and see what some of the big names in the sport like Matt Brown and Brendan Schaub have to say about Paddy Pimblett. First of all, how does Schaub feel about the baddie? The former UFC heavyweight contender wasn't the only one talking about Paddy's fourth straight win in the UFC, but Schaub was one of the few that had good things to say about Paddy after a controversial decision over Jared Gordon. Brendan thinks Paddy is on the way to becoming a champion in the UFC's stacked lightweight division. However, Schaub said something really interesting about the stipulations to Paddy becoming champ if they take the necessary steps. Brendan recognizes that Paddy was thrown into the deep end against a veteran killer like Flash Gordon on the back of the hype he'd built. He needs to spend a little more time fighting in the UFC, getting used to a significantly higher level of competition across the Atlantic, and working his way up the rankings. Schaub even said that Paddy's hype outweighed his talent, but that will change. Paddy's skill set isn't going to stay stagnant over the next few years. Fighting the best in the world will allow him to grow. Pimblett is ready for the big show, said Schaub, and he really is. Paddy has all the tools necessary to be a superstar in the UFC, but not all the skills to become a champion yet. Many point toward Pimblett's bad habits of keeping his chin in the air and rushing forwards, trusting his ability to withstand a shot. That just doesn't work when you're fighting someone like Justin Gaethje or Dustin Poirier, who will shut anybody's lights out. Next up, Paddy's career leading up to a UFC contract. Schaub said something very interesting about Paddy that resonated with us. He said if you think Paddy isn't ready, do some research on him. So let's take a look at the experiences Pimblett had that enabled him to hit the ground running when he came into the biggest fight promotion in the world. Paddy fought with the UK-based promotion Cage Warriors, the same promotion where Conor McGregor became double champ before the UFC. Paddy had a massive following in his home country and fought his way up to capture the lightweight championship in Cage Warriors before losing the belt. Some may have even questioned the timing of the move. Paddy had lost a couple of fights by decision and got caught with a nasty heel hook in his latest outing, but Dana White saw the baddie's potential and star power. Let's also not forget that Cage Warriors is a pretty competitive organization, and Paddy fought his way to the top at 25. Even now, he's 27 and yet to hit his physical prime. When Schaub said Paddy was ready for the big show, it had more to do with just showmanship and handling pressure well. Pimblett is also a seasoned fighter now in his own right. He has most of it down and only needs to make certain adjustments. Moving on, is Paddy as really good as he says he is? Before his most recent decision victory against Jared, the answer was a resounding yes. Even now, it's not fair to completely discount the outstanding performance Pimblett put in the first 3 times he set foot in the octagon. His debut against Luigi Vendramini was a tough challenge that the Liverpudlian dispatched with the first 2 minutes via rear naked choke. He got caught with a nasty hook that would have put 90% of the roster to sleep, but the Scouser kept his feet. He got tested a bit more in his second fight against Vargas, but couldn't be taken out of the first round. He handed Rodrigo only the 3rd loss of his career, with a flurry of strikes at the end of the first round, and further building his hype. His 3rd bout against Jordan Levitt was the first that went to the 2nd round, and had some fun trash talking leading up to it that added some more crowd interest. Levitt is also an extremely unorthodox and skilled fighter with serious wrestling credentials, so Paddy's submission victory showed he was ready for the next level. He got that opportunity on his first pay-per-view appearance, but that's actually turned a lot of fans against the baddie. Let's take a closer look at what some are calling the worst decision in UFC history. Finally, the details from the robbery of the year. Jared Flash Gordon is a seasoned, skilled fighter who was riding a winning streak of his own when he crossed paths with Paddy. Not only was he the first fighter in the UFC to take Paddy to the scorecard, many feel Jared was robbed of the biggest win of his career. The fight wasn't exactly one-sided, but many feel Jared had done enough by the end to seal a unanimous decision. The numbers had Paddy ahead by just 3 points in the significant strikes department. Jared took round 1, while Paddy took rounds 2 and 3, but round 3 only had had 6 strikes landed in total. Jared controlled Paddy for nearly 4 minutes in the final round. Even if you disregard the takedown in the second round and ignore the fact that Paddy landed only a couple more strikes than Flash and give it to Paddy, many believe Flash had derailed the hype train. All 3 judges gave the fight 28-29 to Paddy, but one judge's scorecard bizarrely differed from the other 2 who gave Paddy rounds 1 and 2. That, while very debatable, is still an understandable position to argue. Giving Paddy the 3rd round feels very inconsistent with what the fans and the fighters have grown to expect from judging, which is a completely separate discussion about the inherently flawed and outdated scoring system used in MMA today. Matt Brown is concerned Pimblett's lack of discipline may ruin his chances. First off, in what ways does the welterweight feel Pimblett is undisciplined? Matt is not the first one to criticize Paddy for his lack of discipline in terms of his fight while he's in between training camps. Many notable figures like Michael Bisping have openly warned Paddy on their platform how dangerous this behavior pattern is. Matt explained that while Paddy may not have missed weight a single time, yet despite gaining up to 50 pounds in between training camps, and he may even be able to sustain this behavior for a few years, it means Paddy isn't really training. Most of his training camps become weight loss camps. Pimblett will be spending more time exercising to lose the weight than he will be honing his skills and preparing for a specific opponent. Brown warned Paddy that as he moves up the rankings, that's not going to cut it. At the very least, the fight against Gordon should be a wake-up call for Paddy that there must be some respect for his opponents and the dedication a top-tier UFC fighter must exercise to realize success. These aren't new criticisms, though. Many have warned Paddy, and he has been questioned about his behavior in the past. Let's take a look at what the baddie has to say about his weight fluctuation. Let's look at the reasons Paddy has given for his sporadic diet. The Liverpool-based fighter is pretty active on social media and often posts his junk food binges, joking that he just loves food too much or that he deserves a few Big Macs after a training camp. However, it is rarely ever that simple for high-functioning athletes, especially fighters. Paddy feels he may have developed a bit of an eating disorder because of his life as a fighter. Cutting down to the 155-pound requirement for lightweight in the UFC and Cage Warriors multiple times a year requires a period of such intense fasting and dehydration that Pimblett feels it's ruined his relationship with food. He opened up about the intense hunger one feels while cutting weight, and even when it's over and you can eat, the hunger doesn't seem to go away. The fact that Paddy has to cut so much more weight once he goes up to 200+ pounds doesn't help the intensity of the diet required either, though. Brown, along with other MMA veterans, feel there are healthier ways to approach dieting and making weight. You can maintain a general fitness level throughout the year with a realistic diet plan so that when you do cut weight, it's not more than 10 to 15 pounds. If that's not working for you, then going up a weight class is an option many fighters have taken and found great success with. Even the recently dethroned champion Charles Oliveira started at 145, but hit his prime when he moved up to 155. Finally, does Brown feel Paddy is living up to the hype? The 41-year-old welterweight was very blunt about his feelings towards Paddy. He thought the UK fighter hadn't really backed up all the talk and hype he brought with him from Cage Warriors. He didn't want to put Paddy down or anything. He said he liked the guy, but there just hasn't been a serious enough test before Jared Gordon to make a judgment. Brown felt Jared was just the right opponent for the stage Paddy was at right now, and predicted even before the fight that Flash was going to push the baddie like he hadn't been before. Matt feels that Paddy is a bit of a one-dimensional fighter, despite the variety of the finishes he's shown us. Pimblett has ended fights via knockouts, TKOs, chokes, armbars, and triangles, but that's not really what Brown means. Paddy is used to bulldozing and overwhelming his opponents, be it on the feet or on the ground. As he gets deeper into the UFC's deepest division, he's going to meet people he won't be able to bully, and he needs to learn to accept that fact, work on his skills in earnest, and approach his opponents with more caution. He wasn't able to bully Flash, and even though he was just up against the cage and taking no advantage, Paddy was so comfortable on the back foot that he almost seemed to accept the situation. That's a wrap for this video. Let us know in the comments below if you feel Paddy earned the unanimous victory at UFC 282 and what Paddy has to do to get on the path to the World Championship. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to subscribe for more MMA updates.